My special guests tonight are candidates with the Socialist Party. Let me go ahead and bring in Stephanie. What's going on?
Not much. Glad to be here.
Thank you so much for coming on. William's in the background, but it seems he's disconnected himself. So when he gets that situated, I will bring him back in. So I want to hear a little bit about the Socialist Party. I do realize I want to share your platform here. This is Socialist Party USA, Socialism as Radical Democracy. So let's start off a little bit talking about the party itself, and then we can get into your campaign.
Sure. One thing that distinguishes our party is we are a multi-tendency party. We're also a intersectional socialist feminist party, meaning we reject both the liberal identity politics feminism as well as the kind of class essentialism. So we do believe that white supremacy and fighting patriarchy go hand in hand with our fight for liberation. We are the party of Debs. We formed after a split in the Socialist Party of America. We formed from the Debs caucus, which was the more radical left caucus of the Socialist Party of America. And the split was over whether or not to work with the Democrats. We have always staunchly been opposed to working with any capitalist party. So we are independent, grassroots, multi-tendency, socialist, intersectional socialist, feminist, socialist party.
Okay, let me go ahead and bring in William. Welcome back, William. What's going on?
Thank you. I apparently when I plugged my earphones in, my camera went off. So
yeah,
it goes out.
Yeah.
So hey, how's it going?
Welcome. Yeah, so that can happen sometimes with StreamYard. So just to be clear, because I don't want people to be confused, some people in the chat are wondering, so David said, so this is not PSL. Correct. This is the Socialist Party USA, correct?
Right. This is the party of Eugene Debs. That we were founded back in basically the early 1900s, went through a whole bunch of splits and everything like that, and refounded as the Socialist Party USA in 1973. So we've been here for more than 100 years. Socialist Party is a small organization, and we have a growing membership. So yes, we're different from the Socialist Party.
Okay.
PSL.
The PSL, yeah.
Okay, thank you for clearing that up. So both of you are running for president, if I'm correct?
I'm running for president, and Stephanie is running for vice president. So we're the ticket.
Okay. So the first question I have is, which is the one a lot of people are going to want to know, is in reference to ballot access. So does Socialist Party USA have ballot access currently? And if not, what are the steps that will be taken to gain ballot access?
We don't currently have ballot access, but we are working on getting ballot access in about probably a dozen to about 15 states in the country. We're obviously not going to be on large tickets like California or New York State. We might be a write-in in some states, mostly in the East and the South, where the ballot access laws are a little bit more lax. But getting 250,000 signatures in the state of California, or whatever the number is, seems to be a little bit out of our reach as far as money goes. We're not like some of the larger campaigns that can, that have millions of dollars in our bank to go buy a ton of signatures. So we kind of have to rely on volunteers.
Okay, so I guess the next question I have, and I'll pass this to you, Stephanie. If the party has been around since the 70s, this is the parties of Eugene Debs, people are going to want to know, why isn't there ballot access?
Oh, that's a good question. I have never been asked that. We are a working class party, so we take no corporate donations. Our dues are incredibly low. So we are not like some parties are working with hundreds of thousands of dollars. We're literally working with hundreds of dollars, and anything we need, basically our volunteers have to chip in and pass the hat. So ballot access, of course, has gotten more and more difficult. The parties of capital ensure this is the case. Although obviously we're running a campaign to both spread class consciousness and to build the party. So ballot access isn't necessarily our focus. It's not always the best way to accomplish our goals, especially since they keep making it more difficult for us. And I guess it's always been something that has been left up to the campaign as far as how they want to form their strategy. But especially in recent years, we have focused mainly on outreach and media appearances, and of course just presenting an alternative to the capitalist system, because so many Americans don't even realize, I mean, they have a choice every 4 years between capitalism light, or it's not even capitalism light, it's like fascism light and then slightly regulated capitalism, and that's all they know. They think, so that's what we focus on more than ballot access. We do obviously run electoral campaigns. We have several elected officials right now, but we're generally more successful on the local level, just because there is so much big money in politics right now, and it's so corrupt. It's really hard, even for a honest politician in one of the big parties to win, much less a third party.
Right. But I guess the reason why I'm asking this question is I totally get it. Like it costs a lot of money. I totally understand. I understand your grassroots. I get that. But so is the Green Party, for example. Their grassroots, it appears you've been around maybe longer than them. And the reason why I'm asking is, so technically this is a messaging campaign that you're running. This is not a campaign to actually get on the ballot. And I'll pass it to William.
Well, to be completely honest with you, we are in kind of a building phase as far as the party goes. But the one benefit of running a campaign this year, and there was some controversy within our party with regard to this question, but the one benefit of running the campaign is we can actually get topics that we're talking about, which is workers' power, which is fighting against corruption, and the two major parties that are currently going to be on the top of the ballot. Get these kind of messages out into the public and kind of get people thinking about these things. In a lot of ways, it's sort of like what Bernie did in 2016, where now we're talking about the 98% or the 1%, or we're talking about things like student loan forgiveness, and we're talking about things like peace, where we might not actually have a chance to win the election this year, but that might not necessarily be our goal. Our goal is to get people to start talking about socialism, to get people to start talking about alternatives to the two-party system and alternatives to all this money in politics. And electoralism isn't necessarily our end goal. What we're trying to do is we're trying to build a movement that gets people interested in these things and gets people to start working for them, because we're kind of realistic about this. We're not going to see change from the White House. A lot of the politicians that we'll listen to on TV will talk about how important it is to get into the White House. At the end of the day, we're not going to see change from inside the White House. We're going to see change out in the streets, where people are working every single day, where people are living their lives. And, we've had a lot of discussion about this too. It's not really, this campaign isn't really about Stephanie or me. We happen to be the people that are running this year because we were the ones that the party named. We're not necessarily going out to build a cult of personality. If you look at some of the larger parties, it's all about the name. It's not necessarily about the movement. What we're trying to do is we're trying to build a movement that can last long after Stephanie or I are done with our political careers, that will last, that will get people not only excited about socialism, but get them activating in their communities, get them involved in organizing unions, get them involved in building these democratic and these kind of socialist formations where they're capable of taking control of their workplace and, putting the power in the hands of the working class. So, at the end of the day, when we ask about ballot access, it would be nice to, have ballot access. It's nice to see, 10,000 or 5,000 people voted for me in 2024. But at the end of the day, hopefully, our goal is to build a movement that lasts past November 5th of this year, into next year, into the year after that, so that when we start again in 2028 to do the same thing, we're not reinventing the wheel. We have more people working on it at that time. We have a bunch of other formations that we started in the meanwhile to help continue this movement going forward.
Okay, so some of the things that I've heard both of you say so far is very similar to what PSL says. So that's why I ask,
Mhm.
what's the big difference there? Because PSL will tell you the same thing, that they're building a movement, but the difference is they do have some ballot access. Claudia de la Cruz, I would say, for the most part, is not is not a big name, right? A lot of people, until she ran this time around, did not know who she was, and most people probably still don't know who she is. But they've been out there in the streets protesting nonstop. She's protested against BlackRock. She's protested at the pro-Palestinian marches. So some of the things that I heard you say is very similar to what PSL says, that they're building a movement, but they do have the ballot access. So if someone had to choose between the two, between the Socialist Party USA or PSL, what is it about you that is different from PSL that's going to stand above that?
Well, I would say that we're a smaller organization. I know PSL is a smaller organization too. We don't have that money that Claudia has. She's got quite a bit of money, and so she can go to different groups and stuff like that, and protest in the streets and all that good stuff. I don't want to speak for Stephanie, but for myself, I work 9 to 5. I raise 2 kids here at my house. And I can't really afford to get out and do that. I would say, that sort of puts us in an interesting position, because we can talk about working class issues because we're actually in the working class. We're doing this. I'm not trying to run down Claudia's or the PSL's campaign, because let's be honest, when the PSL gets people talking about socialism, that serves our goals too. We win whenever they talk about socialism. We're not running against Claudia. We're not running against anyone really on the left. We're running against Joe Biden and Donald Trump and the whole system in this country that not only protects privilege and power where it's at, but we also are running against a system of white supremacy. We're running against a system of mass incarceration. We're running against a system of forever war in support of apartheid in Israel. We're running against that. We're running against capitalism, and our goal is to try to do what we can to bring down capitalism. And so if you look at the PSL stuff and you find that you like it as much as the Socialist Party and you have the opportunity to vote for the PSL, why not vote for the PSL? Absolutely. I mean, we might not be on the ballot in that place anyway.
We're not running against them.
Yeah, we're not running against the PSL. I think that's pretty important. And so like I say, if she wins, we sort of win too.
Yeah. And we don't see ourselves in conflict with the other, like the Green, at least when it comes to the anti-capitalist parties. I don't know their candidates' backgrounds, if they're working class. I don't want to make any statements on that, obviously. I don't think that's what Bill meant, I hope. But we are, I mean, the biggest difference is if you look at our statement of principles, we are, I believe they're not a multi-tendency party. They are a Marxist-Leninist party. We are unique in that a lot of people who might not fit in a group like the PSL or like a Trotskyist organization will have a home in the Socialist Party, because as long as you agree to our statement of principles, you can be a member. And so that's one of the major differences, is just in our statement of principles, but we are running for the same reasons. Another big difference between us is they have been a lot more historically supportive of like the Soviet Union and North Korea, whereas we've been more critical of those socialist experiments. So there are definitely differences between our two parties, but I would like to work with them as much as possible, especially when it comes to ballot access, because ultimately, I mean, I know that we obviously have differences in opinion, but we are fighting the same fight, and we do have common enemies. So I definitely would love to build bridges with the other parties, assuming they are, like PSL definitely is, anti-capitalist.
Right. And that's what I was thinking about too, because there's all these different parties that are popping up along the way, and I just feel like sometimes it would probably be easier if some of these parties actually collaborated together, at least for the sake of ballot access. That's kind
I know, like like every couple of years, it seems like DSA has a revolutionary caucus that's to leave because they don't want to work with the Democrats. It's like, that's what the SP was. It's like, just join the SP if you agree with their principles. But yeah, it's a problem on the left. Everyone has their own little group, and sometimes there's reasons for that, but we really do have to work together more often, honestly.
So I want to show a little bit more of your website. Again, this is the Socialist Party USA. And I just want to go down here to this portion. It says, radical democracy is the cornerstone, not only of our socialism, but also of our strategy. Here are the main features of each. Socialist society, freedom and equality, production for use, not for profit, full employment. I think everybody can agree with that. full employment, worker and community control, ecological harmony, and then it goes into socialist strategy, socialist feminism and women liberation, liberation of oppressed people, international solidarity and peace, internal democracy, cultural freedom, the personal as political, electoral action, democratic revolution from below. So it says, if you agree with these principles, then we encourage you to join the Socialist Party. So I take it in reference to the worker movement, something that we've talked about on this show quite a bit are worker co-ops. So I take it that you are in favor of worker cooperatives. How do you feel about unions? Because I've been telling people I think unionization is great, but I feel like it doesn't go far enough.
Well, I would say for myself that we would support a more sort of radical democratic union movement in this country, where it is grassroots rather than being associated. And I'm not going to run down the AFL, but the AFL is kind of a wing of the Democratic Party. And so, you know, these movements that we see where you see, for example, you know, service workers getting together and organizing their own shops. People that organize with the IWW, for example, would be something we would support. I'm totally for the ability of workers to collectively bargain through their own unions, and I don't necessarily think they need to be taking marching orders from the Democratic Party aligned AFL. If they can do it themselves, then they should do it themselves. If they can work together with other shops along the same lines, they should do that. And if they have to do it through the AFL, if that's what really the choice that they have, absolutely. We're totally, you know, in support of getting rid of right to work laws in this country. I would be supportive of strengthening closed shop in the country to make sure that people definitely join unions. And if that's not possible, fair pay. You know, the joining where the people themselves contribute something to the union, even if they don't want to be actual members of the union, because the union expends resources or so fair share is what it's called, where the union expends resources to help all the workers, where they have to, by law, expend their resources to defend the rights of workers, but some workers don't want to join. Getting rid of free rider problem is a big issue in the union movement. I'm completely in support of that, as well as the co-ops and that kind of stuff. If it has to be through unions, we'll do it through unions. If it has to be through the co-op movement, I'm you know, down for that too. Whatever gives workers more power in their workplace, I think is what we would support. However that works out.
How do you feel about international affairs or foreign policy? For example, what would be your response in reference to the war in Gaza and also the Ukraine war?
We have issued statements against both the Ukraine war, continuing the Ukraine war, as well as for ceasefire in Gaza. We call for a radical form of reorganization of Palestine, where we have a single state with multi-ethnic democratic government within that state. I don't think anything else would be possible if we maintain a two-state solution. That's obviously supporting allowing Israel to remain in place and a threat to its Palestinian neighbors. It also doesn't support justice for people in Palestine. It doesn't acknowledge the fact that, you know, millions of people have been displaced over the last whatever it is, 60 years or something like that from the various places in Palestine. We absolutely support freedom for the Palestinian people. We actually support, you know, self-determination for the Gaza people, for the people in Gaza, for the Palestinians. However they want to do that, however they feel that they need to do that. It's not our place to tell them how they should go about getting their their freedom, but we support their freedom, and we support pulling back the United States' role, not only in the UN but also in that particular conflict. As for Ukraine, I believe that we spending money on the Ukrainian conflict is merely prolonging it. So I would support working on a negotiated peace between Ukraine and Russia as well.
Would you support sending money to Israel?
Sending money to the government, the state of Israel?
Yes.
No, I think we need to stop.
It's an apartheid state.
I don't know. We need to stop doing that, because that money is what Israel is using to then, subjugate the Palestinians. I mean, they have an apartheid state there. Clearly, all you have to do is just look around and see that Gaza was an open air prison before this war, and now it's a heap of rubble. And the United States' money is and the United States' political support as well. Not only their money, but our continued vetoes of resolutions calling for ceasefires in the United Nations, are ignoring the determinations of the International Criminal Court on that whole situation, and also General Council resolutions to call for ceasefire. Our vetoes of all those things, we are providing them not only political support, but financial and also military support to continue to oppress the Palestinian people. I think that needs to end right now. In general, I would be in support of the United States pulling back from its empire position throughout the world, getting rid of a lot of overseas bases, cutting our defense budget by 90%, and start to take care of our veterans rather than starting new wars and creating more veterans.
You're speaking our language here, William. You're speaking our language. Good question here from the Oracle. Are they familiar with Workers' Strike Back and Shama Sawant?
Yes. Oh, go ahead, Stephanie.
Oh, I am familiar. You might be more familiar with her work. On the union question, I am definitely not the IWW candidate, because they do not run candidates or endorse candidates, but I am an IWW member. So I do believe in abolishing the wage system. Although unions are a way to build power, obviously, ultimately we want to seize the means of production and not have the need for unions. But back to the other question, Bill, did you want to say something?
No, I've been watching Sawant's activity in the Northwest. She's in Seattle. Yeah, I've been watching her activity marginally, but she's not a member of our party, so I haven't been paying as close of attention as I probably could. But I would say that she's doing good things in the city council there in Seattle, and I think that she should be able to continue.
Yeah, we do have 3 elected officials here in Minneapolis that are party members.
Okay.
Not in the city council, but.
Yeah, well, I was just adding, Shama Sawant actually stepped down as city councilor, but she started an organization called Workers Strike Back to unionize workers all across the country, actually starting with Amazon as the first one priority. But yeah, she's a lot of the things that you're saying here, I'm sure she would agree with as well. But that's her big thing, is to organize the workers. And I think it would be really great if you contacted Workers Strike Back and see if you can collaborate somewhat with her. Like I hear about like all these parties, like all these different third parties. I know you guys have been around for a long time, but more have been created. And I'm hearing a lot of overlap in reference to the principles and the policies. And I just feel like there could be some collaboration here, people kind of coming together instead of all these different separate parties. Like I say this again, like I hear very, very much similarities between your organization and PSL, but then I also know about, Workers Strike Back, which is really trying to empower the workers. And I know you want to empower workers as well. So I feel like it would be great if some of these organizations could work together.
I absolutely feel that in the pit of my soul. It's so frustrating that we're all working on the same thing, but not necessarily working together. And I think historically the Socialist Party USA has been better at that than average because we are a multi-tendency party. So we tend to be welcoming of a variety of ideologies. And personally, like when I support a movement, like when I go to, I went to a pro-Palestine anti-apartheid rally this weekend, or I go to a Black Lives Matter protest. I am there, and I feel any representatives of the party are there to support the cause first and possibly promote the party if it's applicable. But I really don't like when people support these causes specifically to grow their own brand or their own movement. Even if it's a movement I agree with, I just think it's in bad taste. It's not a great way to build solidarity. When we support a group, it should be because we support the cause, not because, we want to put our policies in as theirs, or we want to start to control it. Because I think that's what builds a lot of the division, personally. So, yeah.
All right. Well, where can people find you on social media?
Okay. We are at SPUSA 2024, Socialist Party USA, SPUSA 2024.org and every place, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We wanted to start a TikTok, although I don't know if I'm technologically savvy enough to be able to do that. I'm a little bit older, but I wanted my daughter to kind of help me with that. She's of the age where she knows TikTok like a native. I don't really do it, but I would love to learn how to do it. And we have an account there, so it's SPUSA 2024. You can check out our website. I encourage people to do that. I also, if I can, I also want to kind of put in a plug. One of the things that we do on a regular basis is we have a theory study group where it's not specifically the Socialist Party. It's everyone on the left who's interested in
What's the name
theory.
of the study group, Bill?
What's that? It's Left Unity.
It's very relevant.
Left Unity Study Group, Left Theory Study Group, and right now we're studying bell hooks, and we study everything from we haven't studied Frantz Fanon though. I'd like to study Frantz Fanon at some point. We studied Pedagogy of the Oppressed by Paulo Freire. We studied Che Guevara. We studied Karl Marx and Engels, and anything that the group decides that they want to get into and study. We read an article or a essay by George Jackson. We were talking about like prison and mass incarceration, things like that. So whatever the group wants to get behind and start studying, we're totally down to do it. And right now it's a bunch of socialists, maybe some affiliated, some non-affiliated, but we can get that link up on our website so people can take a look at that study group if they want to learn and start discussing theory. We don't have a banker model of our education or discussion or anything like that. We instead try to adopt Paulo Freire's model of pedagogy. So it's a really interesting, good time. But yeah, SPUSA 2024 at everything.
Awesome. Thank you so much, guys. Guys, you can follow them here, Socialist Party USA. You can follow the website. I believe Eric has already put the link in the chat for you guys. Thank you to both of you for coming on, and good luck.
Thank you. Thank you
so
Sabby.
much.
Thank you.
I really appreciate being on here.
All right, guys, that was William and Stephanie, and they are running through the Socialist Party USA from old school Eugene Debs. So interesting. Check out that website, guys. They do have some interesting things on the website there. So great to have them on.